Today, I'm going to be talking about a new streaming platform that got announced called Altair TV. What Altair TV was announced about a month or so ago by a Twitch streamer, actually, um, called his name's Brian Veloso, or he's Avalon Star on Twitch. He's kind of like a small to mid-sized Twitch partner. Something like around 50 viewers or so, but he decided to announce that he was going to focus on building a streaming platform. Right. So we're going to be talking about that. So first, I guess I can talk about who this guy is. So I guess I already told him. So there's this guy named Avalon Star, who he looks like. Let me bring up the screen here. Yeah, so he looks like this. He's got a YouTube channel, stream, and everything on Twitch. Mid-sized creator who focuses more on kind of positive stuff. So he's more of a positivity streamer who does a lot of game streaming. He used to be kind of a first. Actually, he was one of the first people who worked at Facebook, who was a designer there. So he worked at full time as a designer for a while, and he actually worked at Twitch for a couple of years as a designer. And he has a couple other people working with him who seem to be pretty legit as well. So unlike other kind of these platforms that have been announced, these people seem like they have a lot of experience and seem like they have the ability to at least kind of release a product, um, depend at least get something out the door as opposed to something that would just be kind of vaporware, right? So that's cool. To give you an idea of some of the content that he does, I wanted to go through some of the videos that he has, as well as kind of some of the interviews that he's done with other people about the platform Altair. So I guess we find it right here. Go. So this, just to give, this was kind of my impression of him, of what I kind of mean by positivity, upbeat streamer. So this clip that I'm going to show is him kind of talking to his audience right after he kind of announced that he was going to kind of be working full time on the streaming platform.
But there are a lot of you who depend on me to be there for you. And while I feel like, you have my back always, I still have to say I'm sorry. That's just how I feel about, the choice I've made. Although I back it so much and with all my heart, I'm sorry that I can't be there every day anymore.
Cool. So I show that video just to give you an idea of kind of who kind of he is as kind of a person and a streamer. So what I meant by positive streamer, I meant like he, uh, uh, you know, when he was making that kind of clip and interview, it seemed like he was pretty kind of emotional, talking about how he was there for people and kind of apologizing for the fact that he can't necessarily be there for his viewers anymore because he's going to be focusing more on the streaming platform, right? So that's why I showed that clip. So that's who he is as a person. I think that my analysis of the team itself is, given that this guy is kind of one of the kind of first engineers at Facebook, used to work at Twitch as a designer, and is working with like 4 or 5 other people. It definitely seems like these guys are no joke, at least technically on the technical chops. So that's who they are as a team. Let's talk about Altair as a platform and what they're trying to do and why. So um, for that, we are going to go to another clip here. We're going to be doing that a lot, going through a bunch of clips that he has in some of the things that he's done to kind of show it off using his own words.
I was spurred on by wanting to provide something I didn't think was there, a rethinking, a reimagining of what a content creation service can be, and not from a technological level, from a business level, and mindfully designing this in a way where the first thing that our main business goal is to take care of our creators and the viewers and the communities that they bring with them.
Sure. So to give you an idea of what he's kind of saying with that, what he's trying to say is Altair is focusing more on it's going to have a very mission based focus, right? So high on kind of ideas and then kind of less so on kind of having fancy new features or kind of crazy new things or ultra fast latency or those kind of things. It seems he's more about the mission, positivity, happiness, mindfulness, that kind of stuff. Let me give you kind of another clip that he has where he kind of talks about his mission.
As long as our heart's in the right place and our vision's in the right place, that we can build off that vision and start something that people can really ally themselves with and feel like not only support but feels like it supports them on a daily basis.
Sure. So just a kind of a continuation of kind of what he was saying previously here. He's talking about how, if Altair, if everybody working on Altair is very positive, and there has kind of their heart in the right place, he's kind of saying that everything kind of follows from there. If you have good intentions, then you're going to produce a good kind of platform or whatever. And the reason why kind of he's saying that is he kind of thinks, to summarize some of the other things that he said in kind of the other video, he kind of thinks that the problems in the streaming space are kind of caused by incentives. He's saying that it's not really because of anybody messing up or whatever, or it's because of, oh, if your heart is not in the right place, you're going to make bad decisions, and if you just had kind of good people there, then things will kind of work out, is what he thinks. So let's go over where he kind of talks about that part.
So much has been happening with regards to, people just not being protected. And it's just like the capitalistic culture and environment that we live in serves to almost as a barrier to be able to do the simple, it's not simple, to be able to do things, let me take simple back, to be able to do things that protect those who get rid of the bad actors and protect those who need to be protected. And I see people struggle with this, and I see people struggle with content creation and wanting this to be like for the love of the art and make an income on the side. And we've made it into this thing that is such a bastardization of what we see, what we all.
Cool. So what he's kind of saying there is he's saying that to kind of a lot of the things that he's saying matches up with his content on other platforms. He's kind of saying that, oh, he doesn't think that people are being protected. He thinks that there are kind of bad actors out there, I guess, or I guess because there's a lot of issues in streaming related to kind of harassment and kind of the gaming sphere, that kind of stuff. A lot of negativity because being a content creator is pretty difficult because you have all these fans and all these crazy people. And it's also hard to kind of make money, is what he's kind of saying. So he's saying like, oh, people are they want to be a streamer for the arts, for the community, and they kind of have to compromise on their principles in order to do this. And he is kind of saying, oh, we could make a platform where you don't have to do this, where you can just be mission focused, have people who have their heart in the right place, and will protect creators, is what he's kind of saying. That's kind of his mission, is both his mission and the kind of the problems that he sees in the space. And to expand on that further, the reason why he kind of thinks that kind of the problems, the general problems in the streaming space are caused by people who have kind of bad incentives are specifically because of venture capital and companies being owned by larger companies is what he thinks. So let me show you where he kind of talks about that.
Just the fact that it's a company that takes venture capital, that it's a corporation that is made to make money, where you and I aren't their primary stakeholders. It is, it's Amazon. It is Amazon's investors that are the primary stakeholders. There are things that hinders them from actually being able to do things that protect us as broadcasters, as content creators.
So basically what he's saying is to launch off of his consistent narrative that he has here, because his mission is, if we will create a platform which is created by people who have their heart in the right place. He is saying that other platforms such as Twitch or kind of all the others, he's kind of referencing all of them in general. He's saying that other platforms aren't doing the right thing and other platforms aren't taking care of creators, specifically because of they accepted venture capital or they got purchased by other companies, and those incentives kind of cause those platforms to in some way do wrong by their kind of audience or creators. And so he's saying, and he's specifically saying because of kind of venture capital. So what's his solution to it? Well, his solution is, well, what if we don't take venture capital? So let's go into where he talks about that.
This out there, we are a public benefit corporation, which means that our legal requirement in our bylaws as a corporation is to provide a public benefit for our stakeholders. Like that is like Ben and Jerry's does that. There are a bunch of other companies that do that. So it's like from the very beginning, I want to tell.
So explaining that further, he thinks the problem is companies that take venture capital. He's saying he'll solve the problem by being a platform that is structured as a public benefits corporation. So that's kind of a legal term, which is it is a for-profit company, but so it is a for-profit company, but public benefits corporations are structured in such a way that they're required to provide some sort of benefit to the world listed in their charter. And he brought up the example of Ben and Jerry's, which are apparently structured as a benefits corporation while still being a for-profit corporation. And he thinks that those kind of bylaws of his company will cause his company to do right by his creators. He also has kind of other ideas about how to structure the company, which we will show here.
And we're trying to pull from all these different models, like co-ops, like REI, and we're looking at everything because since we're being given these restrictions, we have to think about how we do this in a way that doesn't compromise our vision, but also allows us to stay afloat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's also considering other kind of forms of how his company might be owned. He thinks that maybe if it's structured in a co-op where maybe creators get some stake in the company, or possibly even viewers, as well as like obviously the employees would have some stake in the company. He thinks that by structuring in that way, where you get different input from all these creators and a lot of people own it, maybe that will provide the right incentives for his company to do right by the community and kind of creators. Now, after that, so the question is, if he's not taking venture capital, the question is, how is he making money, right? So how does his company going to exist, I guess, if it doesn't take in venture capital or investments? He actually has things. So let's show where he talks about that now.
Version of a sort of a Twitch Prime, where it would be more like Discord Nitro, not Twitch Prime. So like you would support Discord, and then you'd get that token to boost a server, right? We would like that's a model that we like that we're looking into. So being able to support Altair and then be able to support a streamer with a token. And then above and beyond that, if you were to support a streamer, 100% of that minus any, like, I guess, like, transcoding fees and things like that would go to the broadcaster. We wouldn't be taking out, we wouldn't be like.
So that's kind of an initial description of some ways he plans on making money by having some sort of subbing process or Discord Nitro process for Altair TV. But he also has other, that's part of it. But at the end, he mentioned another big part of his kind of monetization process, which was kind of transcoding. And so he has another in-depth explanation of what he means by that here, which we're going to go to.
Pay for transcodes, but transcodes cost money. So that's where the sort of like you get 100% of your cut from whatever you get supported by, minus whatever the transcoding costs. But you can then, we will have an a la carte system where for like smaller broadcasters, you can toggle that on a month or monthly, or depends on how our backend works, on a monthly basis, and be like, oh, I want transcodes this month. Oh, I don't need that this month. I'm not gonna pay for that. But if you're just starting out and you want transcodes, you should be able to pay in for that. But if you're already making money, that will be subtracted from your payout, so to speak. That won't be going to us. That'll be going to our operating costs.
So this is something that bears some pretty deep analysis. So what he is saying is that he does not want to, he's other parts of the video, he says that he doesn't want to have a partnership program where there is some sort of exclusive kind of two-tiered system between streamers. He instead wants to have things like transcoding, which is something that costs a lot of money. Transcoding is the thing that allows your video to be displayed at different qualities, which is expensive. And he's saying that instead of kind of taking a percentage cut of what people pay to the streamer, he's saying instead of, oh, they always take 30% of all subs or whatever, what he wants to do is have an a la carte system where different features are charged for. So he's saying that if you want transcoding, if you want these other features which kind of cost money, he's saying that they will have you pay for that as the streamer instead of them kind of giving that away for free, but taking a percentage of your payout. So the way to think about that is he wants all costs. He basically wants to charge the streamer for the cost of providing the service, but not really take percentages from the streamer's revenue, is what he's saying. And he said throughout kind of the other parts of the video, which is very different. This is actually probably the biggest difference between this platform and a lot of the other platforms, is this different monetization model. Let's go into features.
And like, you've had these other services that try stickers, and then Mixer tried stickers, and DLive has stickers, and Trovo has everybody has stickers. But like, having emotes, and I love emotes. I absolutely love emotes, and like that's something I definitely want to be able to keep over. I think it's that feeling of making sure that your viewers, when you move over, that they feel at home.
Familiar. It needs to have a sense of familiarity.
It has to have familiarity. And
so this makes sense. So he's talking about stickers and emotes. Stickers were kind of features released on some of the other platforms that shut down, like Mixer. And he's saying that for features in general, he wants the platform to be similar to other platforms. That's why he's calling it familiar, which is, I guess, kind of short for doing kind of what other platforms are, not kind of reinventing the wheel. And just generally making it very similar to kind of what other platforms look like. He also has, let's go to the next part about features.
Us toward this sense of like, wow, this should look more like a Discord than it should Twitch, because if people want to edit their preferences, if people are like, I never want to see I never want to see any numbers on the site, toggle. I never want to see chat, toggle. I want to always be in theater mode, toggle. Like those are things that apps like Discord and Slack and even like code editors do very well. But if we can provide.
Yeah, so this is another, he's been kind of light on kind of the details where he talks about features, but this is another one, like more of a design philosophy that he wants to has. He wants to give kind of more control to users with a bunch of toggles. Yes. And then to further explain on what he means by that, go to the next section.
Of that, since you built Whispers, what's it gonna look like on Altair?
We don't want to do that. We don't want to touch it. I mean, pretty much we want to do one thing from the beginning and do it really well. Like what I remember when Twitch was trying to build group chat and everybody was like, why are we building this? Everybody's moved over to Discord anyway. Like, we want to be a part of the ecosystem. We don't want to try and be the be all end all for this.
Sure. So he's basically saying he doesn't necessarily want to make a bunch of killer features. He wants to focus more on the community positivity aspect of running a streaming platform and protecting streamers, as opposed to making some big new kind of technical features or whatever. So that's kind of it on features. I did want to point out one other big change too, which is his thoughts on moderation and code of conduct and the like, because he does have a big document on code of conduct, and there's a couple things that stood out to me as being kind of different from other platforms. So here's his code of conduct. It has a lot of pretty standard things here, right? Like they don't want harassment, no discrimination, don't make offensive comments, don't make threats of violence, or intimidate people or stalk people. That stuff's all very normal about for certain platforms. But there was a couple things that stood out to me as being a bit controversial, is what I'll say. So the first one that came up with was kind of this section here. So here he says that Altair prioritizes marginalized people's safety over privileged people's comfort, and they reserve the right to not act on complaints such as kind of reverseism, like reverse racism, reverse sexism, cisphobia, kind of those accusations. And then another thing that stuck out a little bit to me is, where was it? There was another part where they said, the Altair team is not here to explain power differentials or other basic social justice concepts to you. So I point these things out because I point these things out because it's actually a consistent message with what they're trying to do for their platform, because they're very much focused on this whole positivity, protecting people from harassment, keeping out bad actors, and I'm putting that up because those things are going to be, although it's consistent with their message, the way that they phrase this, it will serve as a lightning rod. So if they get any traction, I expect that they are going to get some pushback by kind of the communities, right? Like the gamer bro community, about basically people will call them SJWs, right? People will call them SJWs, and kind of they'll be called more strict than Twitch or whatever. Which they are kind of targeting that market, it seems like, but it's gonna serve as I expect it will serve as a lightning rod for criticism. The fact that they've included it's the fact that they've described these rules in this kind of way, using this kind of verbiage. So that is actually, there's one more thing they had on moderation, which was here.
Then we can get rid of bad actors without having to think about the fact that, oh wow, we're taking a big hit in revenue here by eliminating this person. It's like, no, if they break the code of conduct, then obviously.
So that's kind of another thing that they were talking about moderation, about how they thought that they basically think that bad actors aren't being removed from platforms because of money, and they're saying we will remove those bad actors from the platform, and we don't care about the money or whatever, because they're a public benefits kind of corporation, right? So I mean, yeah. So the moderation policy does match up though with their mission and kind of who this person is as a streamer, and kind of their narrative, and who they're targeting as a market. So now let me talk about kind of my high level analysis of this platform. So I guess to start from the top, we could talk about. I think the team is so. First, I guess, let's talk about the team. So I think the team is good. The team is. These people seem to be no slouch. If you've got one of the first designers at Facebook who worked at GitHub and Twitch for a couple of years, and you have kind of a bunch of other technical people, they're definitely capable of producing a service that works, that will be released to the public. I'm pretty confident that they'll do that. So I don't think that they're vaporware, unlike kind of other platforms, because there's other platforms that people talk about, like Brime or whatever, which seem closer to vaporware. So mission's fine. The founders seem normal. They seem competent. They don't seem crazy or whatever. And they seem like they're in the space. They seem like they know the space and understand it. They know what they're trying to do. So that's the team. Now talking about the mission. So their mission seems to be targeted at a certain group, right? So they're focused on this very charity-focused, high-level, feel-goody kind of platform, which kind of targets that types of audience, which I do not think is actually served very well by other platforms. I think that a lot of other platforms do have some of that community, but it's kind of overwhelmed by the focus on other parts of the community, right? Because a lot of other people are focused on games, and kind of there's a lot of issues with toxicity in gaming. Things like r/live stream fails or whatever. It makes up a significant percentage of the kind of the streaming market, and I think that this market audience, this safety, positivity, we could even call it SJW, or kind of maybe more female focused, or kind of groups that kind of need protection from kind of harassment, need this positivity thing. I think that actually isn't super well served by other platforms, and I think that they're kind of going after that market in an effective and consistent way. I think that their message is consistent in that they are clearly trying to do a certain thing. This charity type, we're good people, therefore we will produce good things. That's their narrative. So that's their mission, and I think that that's accurate. But the question is, how big is that audience? I don't think it's necessarily super well served by the current platforms. but it seems like they are hyper focusing on this audience a little bit, as opposed to kind of a catch-all, like a catch-all wide net argument, or like wide net audience. And so I'm not sure if it's possible. I'm curious if it's possible to hyper target a group such as this. So they've actually stated that they're not intending to be like, oh, the Twitch killer, the Twitch killer, or the YouTube killer. They actually know that. They know that they're not trying for the large audience. They said that if they get 1-2% of the market, they'll consider it an extreme success. But I'm curious if it's even possible to necessarily do that. Is it possible to run a platform profitably with 1 or 2% of the market? I don't know. I think that that's where they will run into trouble. But they can try. So that's kind of what they're targeting, and how they're planning on doing it. I agree with their. So let's talk about their kind of this whole benefits corporation thing. I think that targeting this audience with their marketing, with the platform, is good. I'm not really too convinced that how the company is structured necessarily makes much of a difference. So they are putting this very high emphasis on they are a benefits corporation and they're legally required by law to do right by their creators, is basically their narrative. And I'm not really convinced that like corporate charters are the reason why platforms succeed or fail. My opinion is that companies are just full of people, and they're trying to do kind of the right thing in general. And I'm not sure if they're necessarily, if like companies are some big evil group that is trying to screw over the creators. I'm more of a fan of the positive sum thinking that companies do try to help their customers, because if they help their audience, if they help their creators, then they make more money as well. And so I'm not sure if like corporate charters will force a company to be good by their creators. So that's one. I'm also a little bit worried that they're exposing themselves to a little bit of liability there. So by this process of hyper focusing on basically claiming that they're the good guys, by saying they can do no wrong, they're the right people, their heart is in the right place. When they inevitably do make a mistake, because like nobody's perfect, and they seem like nice people, but they still probably will make a mistake or two. By positioning yourself in this way, where you are calling yourselves the good guys, you hold yourself to such a high standard that I'm worried that could backfire a little bit. If you advertise to people who want the perfect company, want the perfect employees, who never makes a mistake, if and when you do make a mistake, you are going to be hammered on it. So there's that's something to think about that liability of we'll call it pandering a little bit too hard, as opposed to just saying like, oh, we're a company, yeah, we try to do the right thing, but we're not perfect, right? So those are different. So that's my thoughts on this monetization model. It's interesting. Maybe it's good in a way of getting more feedback and being more transparent. That's good, but I'm not sure if you need to structure your company in that way to be more responsive to feedback or be more transparent, right? So that's that. Now let's talk about monetization. So I think the monetization question is the all the other stuff is fine. It's consistent with their messaging. The monetization one is actually the one I think that is the biggest problem. And not because of the whole because they've been getting on a slack on like, oh, how are they going to make money or whatever. I'm not worried about that, about how the company is going to survive or not. I'm a bit worried about how they've said that they've structured their cost process. So they've said that they put a big focus on this putting basically these costs on the creator, right? So they think that they're not going to take a percentage of the revenue. They're basically going to charge for features to the creator. And basically, but you let the creator keep all of their donations and revenue. And you might think it's good. That's a good narrative to say, oh, we're going to let creators keep all of their money, keep all of their revenue, and we don't take a cut, right? They just pay for what they use. That's the narrative, right? Because it's saying, oh, it sounds good because it sounds like you're letting the creator keep all their money, but it's actually putting more risk onto the creator. So it's actually almost the opposite of, I think it would cause almost the opposite of what they're intending to do. And the reason why is pretty complicated. Basically, if you're charging customers for, or if you're charging creators for what their things cost, what you're doing is you're pushing all the risk onto the creator. Sure, they get all of their revenue, they get all of their money, but they also get all of the risk. They also have all of the costs, and they basically are not protected, right? It's almost the opposite of kind of what they claim they want. It almost means, because like, think of it this way: imagine if costs are actually larger than how much money that they give in that situation, the creator could actually lose money. And instead of kind of these other platforms, which, I mean, they don't charge the creators anything. Like if you stream on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch, you're never going to lose money, right? By streaming, that's never going to happen. And so this whole idea of people keep all their money, but they also take on all the costs is, I think it's an interesting model. Like I think it nobody's doing that, but it's a bit opposite of the whole narrative that they're kind of going for, which is, okay, protect creators from having to worry about money. If anything, if you push off, because these other platforms are basically accepting this risk of these costs, but if you put this risk, the risk of the cost and the benefit, onto the creator, it kind of basically forces the creator to think about this stuff even more, as opposed to only having to worry about their kind of costs. And kind of the money we're talking about for streaming can be very expensive. It can be in the, like I could see a big streamer, cost like with hundreds or 1,000 viewers costing many thousands of dollars a month. And so it could be, it can add up, because that's the largest cost of a streaming service, is the streaming costs. So that's the monetization stuff. I mean, there's also the thing to point out that they, by not taking any venture capital, they have to take on the risk. They could go under, right? But I don't know. They have also said that, another part, they also said that they don't want to be ad focused. And I'm not really sure why they don't like the idea of having a focus of ads on their platform. Like, I'm not sure why ads are evil or hurt incentives in any way. And so they have stated that they don't want to have a large focus on ads, but I'm not even really sure why. Like, why are ads evil, or why do they hurt creators when it seems like just a monetization thing? But I don't know. Yeah, so that's the monetization is the big one. Features are fine. So basically, what their plan is to basically make their platform look similar to all the other ones, which is basically they're gonna copy other platforms, which is fine. That's the smart thing to do. That's how the everybody's doing it. Everybody's copying from everybody in the space, and you should probably do what's right, and do things that are familiar to you. So that's smart. But they haven't actually kind of given there's no huge innovations, right? They're basically just entirely innovating on content and marketing is what I say, or this whole idea of protecting creators. That's how they're monetizing, or what their focus is. So the last analysis I have is of this whole kind of moderation thing. So once again, I would say that their moderation is consistent with their narrative of being this positive anti-harassment stuff, but they are going even further than the other kind of platforms are, right? So think of things on a spectrum, right? At kind of the far kind of right side, I guess, of kind of extreme no moderation is like DLive, right? So DLive is a crypto streaming platform, that has just like, I think it has just like literal Nazis on it or something, right? It's a lot of, there's a lot of like really offensive stuff on DLive. Not to say that everything is that, but I mean, but they have a lot of pretty very political stuff, and they just don't do any moderation, and they just they just allow, they have people like Nick Fuentes on it, and it's like that's kind of the far right side. And then you get to kind of more moderation with something like YouTube. YouTube's still pretty actually unmoderated compared to the other platforms. They're probably on the middle righter side of less moderation. And then kind of on the more moderation side or middle of the road to the left side is something like Twitch, which Twitch even now gets a lot of gets a lot of flack kind of for how much moderation it does. It's definitely more in the middle, more on the strict side of moderation, and more closer to kind of, I guess we'll call it the SJW side of moderation and anti-harassment, or that there's two ways to kind of phrase that. And then this platform, Altair, is even further than that, but by it seems like a pretty significant margin, by the fact that they're kind of even willing to include kind of some of the verbiage that they are in kind of their code of conducts. Because they haven't actually said any, so it's actually hard to know how they're actually going to moderate, because we don't have any examples, and these are all very general statements. But it is a bit of a flag. Not to say it's necessarily bad. I'm not doing a value judgment on whether it's good or bad to have high moderation or low moderation. I'm just saying that the way that some of the words that they have included in their code of conduct will be controversial and will serve as a bit of a lightning rod for controversy if they get any traction at all, right? But I mean, overall, I think it's an interesting, to kind of wrap things up. I think this is kind of an interesting platform. I'm glad people are trying new and different things, and these guys at least seem like they have kind of a consistent vision, right? So I just, to wrap things up a little bit more, my high level thoughts on this are they seem a little bit too mission focused. They seem to be saying, if we are nice people, if we have the company structured in the right way, if we kind of announce to the world that we're going to do the right thing, then everything that will work out, and we won't make any mistakes, and we'll be the good guys, right? I think they even I think they said that explicitly in one of their interviews. It's like, we're going to try to be the good guys, and that's a good marketing tactic, but it's not really very tight on the details. Obviously, they've just announced their platform, so maybe they don't have any details yet, but it's a bit, the fact that they are focusing on this idea of mission a little bit, it feels like it's a little bit too much. I'm worried that that might be all there is to it. Maybe all they are is words. Although we can't, this is probably premature to judge them this way, but that would be my concern, is that they might be too focused on mission and just thinking that things will work out if they're good people, when I'm not sure if that's necessarily how the world works. I'm not sure if people who just try to do the right thing, if like that's the reason why things are good or bad, is just because of incentives and just because the right people or the wrong people are doing something, right? I think that kind of people succeed and fail for lots of different reasons beyond that. But it's consistent. It works with their marketing, and I think that they are at least accurately targeting a certain market segment, which I don't think is really truly fulfilled by other platforms. So that's cool, and I hope kind of more people kind of work on new platforms and try new things.